Good morning, this is Akira from Key Operation. Today we would like to show you a commercial building in Shinjuku. Shinjuku Station is one of the busiest railway stations in the world. Every day, millions of people pass through this place, but it's not simply a transport hub. It is a city movement, information, and constant transformation. As you walk away from the station, large streets give way to smaller blocks, and the density of people and activities increases. Our project is located at such place where it's called Shinjuku-sanchome. Shinjuku-sanchome has an extremely dense urban environment. Signs, lights, pedestrian flows, and programs overlap within a very small area. Even visually assertive architecture is easily absorbed into the urban intensity. The question here is not how to stand out, but it is how architecture can remain present without becoming excessive. At the beginning of this project, we asked a simple question: should this building assert itself, or should it receive the city instead? In Shinjuku-sanchome, architecture that tries too hard to become a symbol often disappears into the noise. Rather than adding strong image, we chose an attitude that receives the city and quietly organizes its complexity. From the outside, the facade appears as a rhythmic colonnade. These columns are not structural. They are formed by semicircular stainless steel panels wrapping standard aluminum window sash. While the fall refers to the classical architecture, its construction is highly contemporary and industrial. These columns are not merely visual elements. Inside them, there are standard window sash, as well as concealed vertical rainwater pipes. Rainwater from terraces and slab edges is collected and discharged through these columns. The semicircular panels are detachable, allowing for maintenance and future updates. From its location and architectural stance, the building assumes tenants of certain level and range. For this reason, the transparency of the facade is intentionally respected. At the same time, the basic architecture design is not to be reconfigured by each tenant. Rather than asserting commerce directly, the facade works as a background, allowing commercial activity to emerge within the facade without obstructing their activities. So now we're inside. The columns are finished not only on the outer surface, but also on the inner faces as part of the owner's building works. If you see this as a window sash, this is quite normal. But if you see this as a column, it is unusual to finish by the landlord. What is perceived from the street cannot be brought inside, and this architectural consistency can be shared by the tenants. On the ground floor, we put an internal stairs as there was a potential demand of the tenant who wants to use 2 floors at the same time. This is the shared entrance of the building. Though the ground floor tenant is the most important presence in the building, the multiple levels tenant building cannot be defined by the ground floor alone. To give the upper floors and the basement equal access to the city, the circulation and the signage are carefully organized here. Actually, this facade itself is working in the same principle. By having the same facade as a colonnade and also having eaves finished with timber, the building can have its character, and that can be shared by each floor equally. From here, we can go down to the basement by the lift or by the stairs. The basement level is quite independent from the other floors, but it has a high commercial value as it is easy to access from the ground floor and it can easily cut off the light. So it is suitable for bars or clubs or closed restaurants. There used to be 2 existing buildings, but it was very expensive to remove the existing foundations. So we have retained them as much as possible and built a new basement within the existing. The exhaust ducts and smoke ventilation spaces are positioned over there, so they are not visible from the street side. This is the typical tenant floor. According to the fire regulation, the facade such should have a fireproof certificate at the area close to the site border. In order to have the fireproof performance with aluminum sash, the glass height cannot be more than 2.7 meters. If you make a sash with steel, you can have the glass with its height, but you need to use the wire glass. Therefore, we put the fire shutter behind the window so we can use a normal aluminum sash without fireproof. Therefore, we managed to have this full height transparency on the facade. Now we're on the 7th floor. Let's have a look inside. This floor is done for restaurant, so we have the openings for kitchen exhaust ducts and returns. It is also useful to have service balconies so that each tenant can install their external AC units and their boilers by themselves. Now we're on the 4th floor. This floor does not generate direct commercial value. Instead, it supports the daily operation of the building through external storages and the shared staff space for the tenants. Normally, it is difficult to have a staff rest area within each premises. Therefore, the idea is by sharing the staff space, we can make the space generous and comfortable. This is quite common at the large shopping mall, but it's quite unusual for an independent commercial building. This middle floor is often most difficult to rent, so by doing this, we can increase the total value of this commercial building. The same logic applies to the rooftop. Here we have bicycle parking required by the regulation, and we also have the electrical substation and also a place to put the kitchen and extractor fans for each tenant. The extractor fans shall be installed by the tenant, but the ducts are pre-installed by the landlord so that the tenants don't need to use the scaffolding for the installation. These technical services are supporting the whole building. On the 8th floor and 9th floor, we created the terrace like this. Here, we set back the window sash, while we kept the columns towards the street. By doing this, we have created external space which looks like ancient Greek stoa. In ancient Greece, stoa hosted civic discussions, philosophical teaching, and everyday exchange of information. At the same time, it is also allows small-scale commerce and informal store-like trading. Such spaces from intermediate zone that is also highly productive for commercial activity. For this building, the store is not limited to exterior space. As you can see here, even you're inside, if you are covered by colonnade, It creates a feeling of openness towards outside and protected space at the same time around this perimeter zone. Normally, stoa is single level, but for this building, it is multi-layered stoa. By having the commercial activity within the stoa setting, you can take the balance between the presence of internal activity and the architectural presence. I think this is one of the possible attitudes for commercial architecture within the contemporary city. That's it for today. Thank you for watching.
you.